questions. So go ahead with your questions.
I'm Jennifer. Hi, good to see you. So I'll take any questions that you have.
So why did so many people request absentee ballots by mail and not submit them? Are you getting any kind of sense for that?
Well, I think basically, certainly the Secretary of State did send out the requests to individuals, basically, you know, for them to be able to request the absentee ballots. And every individual who was registered did get this information about an absentee ballot. And I think that many individuals, not thinking, basically thought, this is an easier way to go, and not realizing that if you do not turn it in, or if you request the provisional ballot, the absentee ballot, no matter what, when you show up at the polls, you're going to vote a provisional ballot. I think in many instances, people think that when they go to the polling place, they can actually turn in their absentee ballot and then vote a regular ballot. You cannot do that on election day, and I think that may be some of the problem. And ultimately, you make people an offer, they take it.
So do you think that mailing created too much confusion and maybe shouldn't be done again?
I did not advocate for it. I do know that many individuals did, and I hesitate to say that because I haven't seen what the impact really at this point is going to be. Because ultimately, if in fact your name is, if you request an absentee ballot and you're required to vote a provisional ballot because of that, if you don't turn in that absentee ballot, your provisional ballot is going to count. So it's not like you're casting a ballot that's not going to count. It's not where if you're in the wrong precinct or something like that. So, at the end of the day, I think that that's certainly, that should not impact in terms of those provisional ballots that are being rejected. That's a provisional ballot that really would be counted if in fact the individual did not exercise their right twice by using the absentee ballot.
And they fill it out.
And they fill it.
And also on the impact of the blanket mailing of absentee applications, I think many people accepted maybe that as an alternative because 4 years ago people had extended hours, they had the ability to vote on weekends, a time that is much more convenient for people, and at the time that the provisional ballots the absentee ballots were agreed to be mailed to everyone, we had no extended hours. We had no weekend hours for voting, so people perhaps took that offer because they wanted to make sure they could participate in the process, and so I think that it created a little glitch. There were some glitches in terms of the boards of elections sending out those ballots, or the Secretary of State sending out those ballots. I'm not sure they gave people adequate information about the importance of turning them back in when you get them. I think the Secretary of State could have done a better job of educating the voter, especially since they took the step to mail the absentee ballot.
And on that point of confusion, just to make it clear for voters, because we've been hearing that this is a source of confusion for voters around the state, if you have requested an absentee ballot and you have not yet turned it in, you have two choices. You can either take your completed absentee ballot, turn it in to your county board of elections by 7:30 p.m. today, that's the close of polls, or if you decide not to turn in your absentee ballot, you can go to your polling place and cast a provisional ballot there that will be counted so long as you have not turned in your absentee as well. So if you filled out that form, you're not sure what to do, those are your two choices today.
The one thing I had hit on earlier that I just want to reiterate, those should count, and hopefully when the judge rules, they will count. The danger behind Secretary Husted's directive on Friday is by putting the burden on the voter to fill out that ID information, there's more likelihood or that a problem could exist that would give that provisional ballot less of a chance to count. That's why this is such a key thing that he did on Friday.
And we have a hearing tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock before Judge Martley on this issue to clarify his order.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but going forward, are blanket mailings unnecessary as long as we have the extended voting that we have in the state?
I think we should be making it convenient for voters, as convenient as we can. And I think, again, 4 years ago, 4 years ago, the voters in this state had every convenience in the world. They had 5 weekends of voting. They had some extended hours in some instances, and then they had the option of whether or not they wanted to vote a mail-in ballot. This year they were forced, in my opinion, into one form of that convenience voting, which was the mailing that was done by the Secretary of State to all voters, because again, at the time that was happening, there were no extended hours. That right had been taken away according to legislation that had been passed in House Bill 194 and ultimately repealed in Senate Bill 295.
And if I could jump in and add on that point, regardless of what rules we have in place going forward, whether we have extended early in-person hours that includes evenings and weekends, whether we have these mailings of absentee ballot applications to all registered voters, whatever options we have, we need to make clear to voters what their rights are. I think that's been a big source of confusion this election cycle. There's been a lot of uncertainty about whether voters would have evening or weekend hours, or whether it would vary county by county. And when these absentee ballot application requests were mailed statewide, it wasn't made clear to the voters that if you sent in this application, that then on election day you'd have to vote a provisional if you didn't turn that in. The education has really been missing. And whatever the rules are going forward, we need to make sure that poll workers, election officials, voters, that everybody has the information they need to make sure that they can cast a ballot and have it counted. And that really was missing this year.
So, and the only thing I would add to that, Mark, and I can only speak for Progress Ohio on this, not for anybody else, but if you can turn in your absentee ballot at the Board of Elections and it counts, the easiest solution isn't to stop mailing people so that 1.7 million people were able to vote early this time, and I think that's a great thing. Why can't they just take their absentee ballot to their local polling place and submit it as just like they would a Board of Elections? It's one more complication that government has made that confuses voters, makes it more difficult. So if there's a change that needs to be made, it's not to not give people an opportunity to vote. Just make it simpler. Let them go. If they ordered it, let them go and vote at their local precinct.
Has left the conference.